Hey, Coral. Thanks for being here with me this morning.
Good morning, Liz. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
So I can see you are in our shared office. For everybody who doesn't know Coral, this is Coral Simpson. She currently lives in the Southern Oregon area and shares an office with me. And that's it. It looks so pretty in the background.
Thanks to you, Liz.
Yeah, I love it. So I asked Coral to be here in our practitioner stories series because one, she has some amazing stories. Two, she's an amazing practitioner. And I'd love for you all to hear her personal experiences because they're really fun to hear. So Coral, will you tell us about you, all the things you do other than Cognomovement?
Well, I am a stay-at-home mom for the majority of time, and I've been a health coach since 2015. I went to integrative nutrition school, and I was practicing that before I came to Cogno Movement. So that never leaves you, but I've morphed into Cogno Movement only, really. But other than that, on my personal level, I meditate each day. I exercise. I'm all about health and wellness. I've really been on that path for many years and continue because I think it's endless.
So have you been on the consciousness or awareness path for a long time, or is that relatively new for you?
About 11 years, I would say. My biggest catalyst was a book, Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And I actually, from reading that, it was the first insight to other people's opinions of me are none of my business. And I'm like, what? How would that possibly be? And then the meditation portion and then opening my heart. And so, yes, consciousness is, to me, consciousness is becoming whole, coming back into the home that we're here in, which is our body. And then what do we want to create? Because we're here to play and create. And so that's my view of consciousness. But I don't have any grand experiences. It's more being grounded in myself.
Well, the reason I ask, Coral and I actually met at a healer circle here in our local town. So, and Cogno Movement has these amazing aspects, right? Healing, the health stuff, body, mind, personality stuff, relationship stuff. And then there's this aspect of expanded awareness. So I always think it's fun to ask about that because it's a little bit of a different conversation than some of the other things.
Yes, so with Cogno Movement and expanded awareness, my goodness. So what it has really, truly the biggest one for me as far as expanding awareness is that when you remove a program that is running, so something that was given to you that might not be serving, but you believe it, and that's running in your body, and you're just that's how your view of life is. But once using Cogno Movement, and you can literally see more of a perspective, you see the whole thing, but you no longer recognize, if it's something that's not useful, you no longer recognize that in another person because it's not in you anymore. Now, it doesn't mean that other person doesn't still have that trait, ability, or whatever, but not around you because you don't recognize it anymore because you've helped yourself through it. You go through the whole thing. The other part of expanding awareness is really, really, really getting that when I'm irritated, I better look at myself. And Cognitive Movement is such a fast, easy way to do that. And so much richness and depth comes out of exploring whatever that irritation or goodness, even creating, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a negative, but it's fun to remove the negatives because it only leads to more positives, in my view.
I love that part of it. We've been talking about that a lot this week with the other practitioners too, that now we just don't tolerate that being annoyed or that bad feeling anymore in our bodies. We're like, hey, wait a minute. I recognize that sensation. I'm deleting that, right? We just get to the point where feeling good is, it just feels good. And so we just don't want to feel bad. So we know even when someone else is bothering us, we get to change that. So that's one of my faves too.
Yes, and not even, it's not even only just the not feeling bad because you're going to go through it. So that's the thing. It's not just the beautiful thing is that you actually go through and you see the whys of why this feeling is coming. And so it's, I don't know where I'm going with that. I ramble a lot, but anyway, it is a beautiful way to go through something, and you just know that it's there and that you can do it. And then I even experiment on myself to see, okay, Coral, don't go do Cognomovement and see. And it actually, because I know that there's another side to whatever it is I'm feeling, it's easier for me to get there even with or without the ball.
Yeah, that's interesting. Marina shared that yesterday too. I think after you've done Cognomovement enough, your body knows. It gets really, really smart. And you recognize the pattern and you have the ability to change it without doing the ball. I tend to, if I can't do a session, I tend to do the remap and then go do the ball later just to seal it in, just to be sure. But that's my process.
No, I agree on doing it later because I want to know all the stuff that comes with it. I'm like, well, why is, I like to know the whys. And so it does illuminate that always for me.
Yeah, it's true. It's really fun. So I actually know the answer to the next question I'm going to ask you because I'm relatively certain I'm responsible for it. But would you share with everybody, how did you come to Cognomovement? How did you find it?
Well, like you mentioned, we were in a healer circle together, meeting, and you invited me to lunch, and we went to lunch, and you were telling me about this ball, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And because we're friends, I'm like, I don't know, Liz, whatever. I didn't say whatever, but in my mind, I'm like, I don't know what this is. And because I knew you and you're credible, and I'm like, okay, she's got something. So I'll go for it. So I went ahead, and at that time, it was a practitionership that you were talking to me about. And I was working for Blue Zones Project, and I wasn't focused on anything other, and I wasn't doing the health coaching per se at that time because I was working full time. So I purchased it, and I really didn't do much with it right away. And then, I don't know where I'm going because you got to lead me here because I ramble. So,
well, back then, just so everybody knows what Coral actually purchased, it's not, we don't even have it anymore, but it was an online practitionership. And what's so funny about that, Coral, maybe you've seen it or not, but our basic training is equal. So basic training that people buy to get started in cognitive is equal to our old practitionership. It's a little bit hilarious now, but that's what you had. It was online. You could do it yourself, study at your own pace. So that's what Coral's talking about. So you were saying you were working for Blue Zones, which is an amazing thing already. If people don't know what that is, look that up. That's an amazing thing. And you weren't focused on anything. So what actually drew you back to doing something with Cognomovement?
Well, Blue Zones Project was going to be leaving Grants Pass, and I was going to go back to health coaching. And I was kind of like, I wasn't excited I'm never going to not be a health coach. You can't unlearn what you know, but I just wasn't super excited about it. And so there I go. I pulled out the online learning and I said, let me see what this is. And so I was watching the one on fears, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to try my family, So I tried my son on fear, and he had a fear of spiders, so much so he'd be like, if he even thought it was a irrational response to seeing a spider. So we did the work, and he focused on it, and he's like, yeah, I think it's good, and I didn't really know. And so then that night he slept in a tent in our backyard, and he woke up the next morning and he had a spider on his hand. He opened the tent and he flicked the spider out. And then he came and told me, and I'm like,
wow.
What? So I'm all, oh, there's something here. So then I became like, hey, let me try this on everybody, And so from that point on was like a forward learning progression, and then to now where I'm at here.
That's so funny. That's the way it goes. Our poor families have to be our victims at first. I mean, they really get the benefit, but it's sort of the thing that gets us excited when it's somebody we know that gets a significant change. And a fear of spiders, it's no little thing when you are afraid of them. So, and did that stick? Is he still not really afraid of them?
Absolutely. No, we had a big spider the other day coming in, and he just, we just pick him up and put him outside or whatever, depending on the situation. But yeah, he's totally chill. So it has stuck. I was looking the dates up. I was about July 2019 was when we started talking about, or maybe it was a little sooner, but that's when I've been doing Cognomovement. So it's been that long.
Wow, that's amazing. So what else has changed for you personally since you started doing this work?
Personally, oh my goodness. Bill and Liz, all the time, I'm like, thank you for bringing this crazy ball in my life. Personally, in my own self, confidence. I've spoke before about choosing happiness for Asante in our local town, and I've actually been on the, in this wellness area, like I've said, but Cognomovement has brought a knowing to me, and I know that it's bringing myself back into me, which I've been disassociated. Basically, I didn't realize it. I thought I'm being happy, but then now I know there's this confidence. My relationships with my family, with my husband, with my children, much more peaceful, much more just in the moment in a way, and calm. I'm calmer. I'm like on all the time, but I am way calmer than I used to be. And yeah, just joy just brought me a lot of joy, and it's such a beautiful thing. I really am so grateful for it.
So is it your practice? I've been sharing with everybody, my practice is to do at least 3 minutes a day just to get my brain back online every morning. Do you have a personal practice with Cognomovement? Is there a way you use it for yourself?
Yeah, I actually, in my meditations, I'll usually get something that's come through and it says, clearly what it is that I would work on. And so I pretty much, not every day, but sometimes I go through where I'll do every day for like 7 days in a row on different topics. And I go a full, it's a full on 40 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, depending on how long it takes me to get the full perspective of what it is. And I find when I do that, oh my gosh, it just makes my weeks, and it makes everything better because I'm on, and my mind is open and I'm ready to create. And there's just a lot more benefits when I am doing it. There are times that, of course, life takes over, and then I will go a span of time without doing it. But currently, I've been doing it on a regular basis. So that's my practice.
I think this is an interesting modality for that reason, because a lot of times you wouldn't personal health coach yourself, or I wouldn't have NLP'd myself necessarily. You don't hypnotize yourself. So with Cognomovement and practitioners, we do tend to really use this for ourselves to make change and to create and to just grow, I think, as people. So I think that's unique about this modality. I'm sure there's others that people do it every day, but a lot of us tend to actually dig in and use it because we know we get results with it. So what would you say is the biggest result for you personally? So you said a lot of things like you got some peace and joy and creation. What would you say is the biggest result for you? What's changed your life?
Trust. And so trust and releasing the need to control everything around me in order for me to be safe, and trusting that when things come in, they're going to come in and they're going to pass, and trusting that I'm going to navigate in such a way that it's going to be a nice outcome for me and whomever is involved. So trust is the biggest thing that has of myself that Cognomovement has given me through the use of it.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I have to say, because I do know you, and I've known you before Cognomovement, and now through, you really are a different person.
I think so.
You seem like a different person, softer and more confident for sure. That calmness just radiates through, and because of that, you're such a powerful practitioner. I think all of those things have added up for you being able to serve in a way that is really, really strong. So it's been really beautiful to watch. So you mentioned creation a number of times. Mm-hmm. Have you found it easier to create things or manifest or?
Yeah, I almost take it for granted. Like things do, they just flow. And then I go, wait a minute, did that come because last week I literally was saying this is when it's going to be? And so, for instance, one thing we're going to talk about a little later in the questions is I'm going to be moving. We're going to be moving to Cedar City, Utah, and focusing on the house and what is it that I want? And when we went and visited there, the house came up, except for I have a dynamic, so I'm not just me alone making this decision. And so it was just amazing because it was like, what? And so we didn't get that house, but then now I'm like, oh no, I'm going back to what it is that I want. And so not to say it's the exact vision in my head, but it is it was what I wanted. It was what our family would thrive in. And so those kind of things. And it's literally like days that it happens. And so, yeah, there's all kinds of creating going on. And it really is, when we focus on it, you just, that's it. And the energy matches, you know, if it's right, if it's the right time and we're the right match at that point, it'll be there.
So around the house, I mean, because that's a big manifestation and a big move. And I know you've shared with me that that's been a lot easier than you thought it might have been. In the past, in a move like that and trying to find the house and having it be a match for the whole family, would you have suffered some around it?
Oh, I started to suffer already.
Oh.
But I pulled out, I actually had to do Cogno Movement because when we didn't get the house that it was, there was some blame coming out of me. And it made me see the whole perspective and just forgiving myself and all involved, and just really like, no, it's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. And it was starting to go down that road of the old program. And so absolutely.
So the suffering was optional. You could have continued to suffer. You could have gone down that road, but it made a change. So are you finding that, can you get yourself to a place of neutral and have a bigger perspective?
Yes. Most times. I mean, I certainly am human and I certainly have times that I'm not, but absolutely. It is just, I'm observing. And it's so nice. It's just so nice to be in that area where you don't have the emotions that you used to have. You have emotions, but you don't have that, or whatever it is that would make me have some sort of reaction. That wasn't the nicest or most conducive for the experience.
Yeah, and if you do, you can clear it out of your body. So if you're watching and you don't know about Cogno Movement, what we're doing is deleting patterns out of the body. And we use that crazy ball that you can see in Coral's background and mine. We literally change the way the connection between the brain and the body on any given thing, anything that the brain and body start a pattern on. And we can tell that by emotion, by how we feel, we can take that out. And so I share that with you. I take it for granted. If I'm trying to create something and there's that sensation of oomph in the body, you know, that thing in the throat or in the chest, I'm like, oh, I have a pattern around this. Let's delete that. Then there's this neutral place. I mean, that's what I call it, neutrality. And then I'm able to go, well, I think I like that over there. And I kind of lean in your scooter, right?
Yep.
And then things tend to just show up. There's not even a worry. For me, I used to get, the minute I had an idea, I'd get frustrated that it hadn't happened yet. And so there was this separation between here and there. And now I don't have to have that. I know it's showing up. I don't have to be concerned about at all.
And it's not controlling what it looks like exactly. And so that's like it's kind of fun. It's like, oh, what is it going to be? You don't even have to think, you don't even think about it. It just goes. And I want to talk about the deleting thing again.
Okay.
I want to bring this up because when I first started, I'm like, I think I told you this too. I'm like, are we supposed to be doing this? Are we supposed to be deleting things? Aren't I supposed to go through this and like, ooh, and am I messing with karma? That sort of thing. Absolutely not. And so these things that what we're talking about, these files, these deletions, these are programs that somebody put into, or just our society, our environment, whatever we adopted into ourselves from a very early age, and they're not serving us. And so by deleting it, we're creating that space to be us, to make our decisions how we want to do it. And so I just wanted to illuminate that a little.
Well, I forgot that you asked me that. And that was it was a pivotal moment for me, you know, as the person who a lot of times put together classes and some of the ideas that we teach later. That was a really big moment for me because it had never occurred to me that there might be any problem with deleting something. And then I remembered that there is this idea, a big idea of, aren't we supposed to suffer to learn something? So the fact that you brought that up really, I think, is helpful for so many people who might think that, oh, we need to learn the lesson. And if we delete it and go around, we don't get the lesson.
But you do get the lesson.
Yeah.
Just in a nice way that shows you, oh, oh.
Do you feel like you get more,
Yes.
actually?
Oh, 100%. I would never have the memories or the things associated with whatever it was that's going on. Or I could say, that's my experience. I don't think I would have ever or would ever get these full understandings of the whole thing. Oh, okay, that was when I was 7 years old and this happened, and whoa, I was just somebody saying this or whatever. And it has to relate when I'm 45 years old to now. No, I would not have ever correlated that before. So absolutely, it is a much fuller experience to go through, and it's in such a nice way that it's, you know, it's an hour and a half or 40 minutes. It's beautiful.
So are you saying that when you get in and do your session, that you start to see all the ways that that problem that you seem to be having, the problem state, is connected? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I do. For me, that's my experience. I see a lot of that. Yeah. And I really, it's such a richness that it's, that's why I'm so, when I get irritated, I'm like, ooh, what's this going to bring up? What's this going to bring up? You know, who knows? And I'm like, oh yeah, that lunch smell from my first grade cafeteria or whatever it is. It's just like, oh, who knew? Who knew? And then you just go through it.
Oh my gosh, Carl, I love the way you put things. You're like, ooh, a problem. Let's see what's in it.
It is.
Think about that. What is a huge perspective shift on having a problem? Like that ability to be like, oh, I wonder what presents I'm going to find in here.
Absolutely. And you know, because before coming to Cognomovement, there was a stigma about fear, like it's going to take me over. I'm never going to come out of it. And if I go into something, I just won't, you know, and we are, you know, we're also taught, don't cry, don't get angry, don't express yourself. And so this is a way of expressing yourself without anybody else having to prompt you, and you go, you know, you figure it out.
I love that. I always make fun of myself because, you know, if it's my problem, it's real. It's true. Like this is an issue, don't you know? Right. And then you get into Cognomovement and you get to see 360 degrees what's in there, all the little things. And there is second by second, like microseconds, the storyline, the time, the place, all the patterns that are in there. And then it's gone. And 5 minutes after, you're like, was that ever a problem in the first place? Was it even true? It becomes a no thing. And to me, that's so fascinating.
It is. But it also shows what's in here, like what we are capable of. When you have a clean slate or cleaner slate, I don't know if it ever gets clean, but but what can we do with that? What can we do for humanity, for everything? You know, I mean, there is so much. And if we were all there, Liz, if we could all just do Cognomovement, we would all be there creating, you know, so an amazing world. And so, yes.
Well, now thousands of us are. And we say that all the time as practitioners. You know, when somebody's, you know, right at that precipice of having that change happen, a lot of times I'll say to my clients, you know, as you do this work, you actually do it for the planet. So there's a reason to keep going. And it is so, so true. Every time we clear one of these patterns out of our body, we know we get that energy back. And it raises that level of awareness. Now we've seen the inside of what was a huge problem that is now no problem. And what fascinates me about that is now we have what's available that would never have been available had we not cleared that thing. It was always there. We just couldn't see. So now we have all this availability. So that to me is super exciting.
That and compassion. So, you know, once you've been through and you go, oh, you can relate, because you're like, oh, I can relate to whatever the person is going through. And you're like, whoa, you know, it does keep that, even though the memory's not there, but you don't forget that that you've been there and that you have compassion for whatever it is going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing that it is just a perspective and through their eyes, they're really experiencing it. And yeah, we also know as practitioners, when they come out on the other side, they'll feel like a different person. They will be a different person. So with that being said, would you share what is your favorite thing about being a practitioner? Because we've talked about you using it for yourself, but as a practitioner, what do you love?
Truly freeing people. And it's not me freeing them, they're freeing themselves, but taking them in that journey. And everyone is so unique And it's fun. It is so fulfilling to work with another person who gives that trust to me and me to them, that we're going to go on this journey, and whatever comes out is going to be unique and going to illuminate something for them, and create such a perspective and freedom in their life that wasn't there before. And so watching freedom come out, can't beat that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It really is. I mean, freedom is such an amazing aspect of this work. I like that too. So, would you share with us a couple of, or even just one of your most favorite miracle stories? Because that's our joke in Cogno Movement. What's my miracle today? So, what are some of your favorites?
Yes. So I'm going to try and keep it where I'm not sharing too much, but this one is a big one, and it was something very profound that, anyhow, the person came to me and they were sent by their family. They actually didn't really want to be here with me,
Oh,
but they
no.
were willing to go through whatever it was, because what it was is they came in and they were almost in a catatonic, not catatonic, in a very just slow motion depression. And they knew, you don't have to tell me what it is you want to work on. That's the other beautiful thing, is you don't have to tell me, you're doing the work. So right on, we did that. We were here an hour and a half working on, I didn't know exactly what, but it was a big deal, because when we first started, the person told me, I'm not very hand-eye coordinated. And so I was actually having to hand the ball to them, and it was like in slow motion. And then you can see, as you're shifting, the brain starting to open the pathway up. We started to move, and then all of a sudden that person was able to catch, and we were able to move, and I could see it moving.
Wow.
Anyhow, they leave the office, and the family members who had sent them, they contacted me, and they're like, wow, what had happened is the person actually had seen someone be shot next to them. And that's what they were reliving every day. And during the session, they saw the person smile at them.
Wow.
And able to release that. And that person, since then, the family keeps calling them. They're like, not all the time, but they check in. They're like, that person's thriving, and they're on their own, and it's just been such a catalyst for change. And so it was beautiful. And it was, who knew, what you don't know, what you're getting. You don't know. Everyone is unique when they're coming in, what it is. And so that was a big one. And then, goodness, another one, it's interesting. I'll do a fun one. I'm not going to do the one I was just going to say. Another one would be, cravings. Cravings are fun, and fears are fun too, because it's unbelievable to the person almost that in literally 30 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is, that you can take that out. And we did Coca-Cola, and the person, it's emotional. So we didn't realize, we're just doing Coca-Cola, right? And the sting of the carbonation on the throat and all this stuff, well, then it comes out that there was a memory of a family member that it was tied to, and it was emotional because that person wasn't here. And then that person realized that person wouldn't want them to drink the Coca-Cola for them, because it's actually not benefiting their body at this point. And so they were able to, it went from this delicious flavor in their throat to this thick, syrupy, sweet grossness in the back, and then that cleared, and then they're clear of it. And so it was just fun, and also like, wow, because there is usually an emotional tie into most things. So those are two. I have many, but yeah, those are some really good ones that I liked, that will stick with me forever, especially the one that the first one.
Well, there was something you said there that a lot of people don't know, that with Cogno Movement, it's not therapy, absolutely not. And all we have to have is the feeling that the person feels in the body. As a practitioner, it's nice if we know, but we don't actually have to know what the person is suffering with. So it's great for people who do not want to talk about what the problem is, or they don't want to reveal it, or it's so personal. So that's incredible, that story that you shared about the person thriving. Obviously a massive trauma that, their brain and body are reliving day in, day out. And the other thing that you shared about that is the family keeps calling and they're getting better and better. The work expands. Yeah. After the fact. So people aren't just great in your office. In fact, a lot of times in your office, when they leave, they're maybe a little disoriented, dizzy, Sometimes they feel great, but that's the lowest point. And then it expands from there. So when we get that opportunity to hear what's happening with somebody down the road, months, and they're on a trajectory of their life that just was not happening, that's thrilling.
There's nothing better than that, truly. And it is such a fulfilling, beautiful honor to be able to do this. And I am not kidding that I do think Bill and you all the time. Like, I'm like, and not that this is, you know, you can't live life without it, but man, it makes it so much better.
Well, and we thank you guys all the time because you're out there on the front lines helping people day in and day out and making a better planet. This is something, you know, we talk about all the time. But, you know, when you're able to help someone like that story you shared, or even the Coke craving, they go home and they're better, nicer, more to someone else. You know, their life expands, and from their life being better, the next person and the next person, helping one person has such a huge impact, right? So it's huge responsibility, but it's a huge miracle to be a part of.
It is, truly is.
Yeah. You know, I want to say something else about the craving set that you said. And it's so, again, I love the way you think, Coral. But when we do cravings, it's fun. You get to experience, you get to love it. You get to love the thing you crave.
Yes.
But in there, we usually find something so profound connected to that craving that not only do we delete the craving, but we delete whatever that is too. Huge.
Yes. Yeah. No, it is. There is no session that's not profound. I don't care if it's subtle. I don't care what there is none that doesn't show something that is just profound.
It's really true. So I want to thank you so much for being a practitioner with Cognomovement, for doing the work you do on the planet, and for being here with us today. Is there anything else you want to share with anybody who would be considering trying Cognomovement for themselves or becoming a practitioner?
Oh my goodness. Do it. just try it. And yeah, I work with men, women, and children, and it's interesting because each person comes at it a different way. But truly, if someone's willing to just try, what do you have to, there's nothing to lose. It really isn't. It's only to gain. But it is going through that barrier of you know, what is this? I don't know. But just get through that barrier and try it. And I mean, maybe it isn't for everyone, but I can tell you that it'll affect everyone who does try it in a positive way.
Yeah, it's kind of true. We have so many people who absolutely love it, love it, love it, love it. But I also have people, including a couple of practitioners, who really hate it a lot, but they do it because it works. And then they go back to doing whatever else they love doing, whatever other practice, but they use Cognomovement to get through the hard spots, clear it out, and be free to do whatever the heck they want to do after. Is that true? Okay, so Coral, how can people find you? Can people work with you in person?
Yes, I'm seeing people in person. I live in Grants Pass currently, Southern Oregon. And then in March and further, I plan to be in Cedar City, Utah. So I'll be seeing people in person there. And then, of course, I'm available worldwide via Zoom, WhatsApp, whatever. So I do work. If you have a ball, I'm definitely available to do the work.
Awesome. And what is your website?
weareonehealth.com.
weareonehealth.com. And of course, people can find Coral through the cognomovement.com website. Just go to Find a Practitioner and you will see her lovely face there. You can find her there as well. And do you have an email address that people can reach out to you at?
Yes, weareonehealth@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, I would highly encourage anybody who's interested to reach out to Coral, have a session. Another way that you can interact with Cognomovement is through our basic training course. That is found on cognomovement.com. And it's a way that you can do Cognomovement for yourself. However, I have to say, I highly recommend that if you're having a session, to also do basic training. You get a lot out of it. You get to know, or have a session and then do basic training as well. A lot of people who do private sessions also do the system for themselves at home. It's a way to get a lot more mileage out of what you're doing. So, but there's just no real substitution for an in-person or online training with a very highly skilled practitioner. And Coral is one of those. So again, this is Coral Simpson, Cognomovement practitioner extraordinary, and more. And I'm Liz Larson with the Cognomovement Systems. We'll see you guys all again really soon. Thanks so much, Coral.
Thank you, Liz.